Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm reviewing episode 11 of Binbogami Ga. Well, they say it right off at the very start of this episode that this is the big fan service episode. You know, that presents me with a little bit of a unique problem. What I try to do around here, naturally, is talk heavily about things like plot and characterization. And, well, sad to say, in episodes like this, there's typically very little in terms of plot and characterization to go around. In fact, depending on just how explicit, I guess is the best word, this is basically this can vary between how much you can show the female characters, and it is almost inevitably only female characters in bathing suits or their underwear, or just flat out showing nudity. Thankfully, Binbogami Ga, while certainly not lacking in the fan service department, I mean, Ichiko is on the record as being an F cup, has kept it fairly tame compared to some of the other shows that are floating around out there on TV right now, who I will not name because honestly, apart from their names and the fact that they're very fan servicey, I generally don't know very much about them. So I think that it would be a little unfair for me to criticize them. That with that being the case, but still, I do think that while this does make the thing about this being the obligatory fan service episode is a decent joke, and I won't lie, I got a very big kick out of Bobby and Momo's song at the very beginning. That's a very, very sort of Japanese song right there. I've never heard anything quite like that in terms of lyrics, but in the style of singing, yeah, that's pretty Japanese there. But anyway, it's pretty safe to say that fan service has just continually gotten dialed up in anime over the years. Certainly has in the years that I've been watching anime, and I've been watching anime since basically since I was in high school. That's that's a while. Let's leave it at that. So yeah, as I said, it's really good just kind of ratcheting up and up. And well, let me put it this way: as somebody who owns as much Ken Akamatsu manga as I do, I really can't really criticize people for enjoying a show that's got a decent bit of fan service in it. That said, I really have found that if fan service is the main crux of the main thrust of a series, then I just generally don't enjoy it. I'm not some 15-year-old boy anymore that that's gonna get me really pumped up. Let's you know what? I think I'm just gonna yeah, let's leave that train. I think we've gone far enough down that train of thought. That's it. I guess it's just to sum it up that you throwing fan service at me at this point in my life, I'm just a little too boy. I don't really know. Jaded isn't really quite the word, and I think worldly makes me sound pretentious. So yeah, I think we're just gonna leave it here, and just let me say that I'm I'm just gonna flat out say I'm a little too old to get a huge kick out of a major dose of fan service. Okay, now with that out of the way, did I enjoy this episode? Well, more or less, yes. And honestly, the whole fan service thing, I think, really just kind of got in the way of telling what could have been a better story than it was. What we're looking at here really is mostly just setup for the season's conclusion. Now, I haven't heard one way or the other if there's going to be a second season. I'm really, really hoping there is. Some new stuff from the manga came out a few days ago, and yeah, folks, shit just got real. It really does kick things up to a whole another level, and I'm really liking it. It's really good stuff. But that said, this is, as I said, mostly a setup episode. But there is a little bit of that we could talk about in terms of characterization. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about a few things I did notice. The little thing with Momiji giving the decay god. I just want to call him a slime monster, really. Um, back rub or whatever that was. I'm pretty sure that was a bit of a nod to Spirited Away. If you look carefully in the bathtub, among all the garbage, you will see what I'm sure was a bicycle. And if you've seen Spirited Away, you probably remember the scene where they pull the bicycle up out of the gunk from the river. There's also a little bit in that scene where Momiji is talking, and I gotta say, she's discussing a sexual act that I'm really surprised they could even allude to as explicitly as they did on a show like this. Now, what am I talking about? Well, as I've said, I like to keep things clean around here, just simply because I'm a teacher, I work with kids, and I just don't really want to get terribly explicit in these videos, just because I've really sort of trained myself not to get that way, unless I'm around other adults who I know this isn't going to be an issue with. But let me put it this way: if you missed what I am talking about, go and look up the word paizuru. That's Paizuru, and you will understand. Now, I will warn you, that will take you to some stuff that is most definitely not safe for work, and that I will bear no responsibility for anything you might see or read after doing that. So if you're the sort of person who doesn't like stuff like that, then just accept the fact that Momiji was talking about something extremely sexual, and something that was definitely would never ever really fly in prime time in American television. You know, one of the reasons I've said that I love this show so much is just how foul-mouthed Ichiko and Momiji are. It's just sort of a very refreshing change from what you typically see in a lot of female protagonists on anime shows these days. And honestly, it does fit with their characters very well. But as I said, I really am very surprised that they got that little conversation past the censors over in Japan. But well, I've seen some pretty funky stuff on late night TV when I was living in Japan. So I guess maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Although to be completely fair, as I understand it, Binbogami Ga does not air after the time when it becomes okay to show the more raunchy stuff. But okay, let's continue on. Another thing that I noticed is before, in the previous episode, we saw Tama referred to as simply Fluffy as the translation of her name. Here it's switched over to Kitty. I'm not really sure what to make of this beyond the fact that maybe this episode was translated by somebody else. I mean, these things happen. And keep in mind, this isn't being fan subbed by some fan sub group. I mean, if you've watched them, you know, fan sub folks definitely like to put their names out there and make sure that everyone sees their name. Here, we're not seeing any of that. So I'm not really sure exactly who it is that's doing the translating here, but you know, things happen. Translators get replaced, or you know, sometimes people get overwhelmed and you have to bring somebody else in. And you know, it's just the inconsistencies that happen. All right, it's just one of those things. Now, granted, I'm not reading anybody's mind. I'm just offering what I consider the most likely explanation for this situation. Now, at the very end, we saw Ranmaru wearing that crazy mask. In all likelihood, that was probably just a reference to the mask of some Japanese wrestler. The wrestlers who wear the crazy masks are quite popular in Japan. I mean, they have their own wrestlers who go around normally, where not normally showing their faces. But it is true that lucha libre has been more than a little bit of an influence on Japanese wrestling. Now, with that said, I can't think that I'm the only one who took one look at that mask and wondered if Ranmaru wasn't a fan of Strong Bad. And if you have no idea who Strong Bad is, just throw Strong Bad into Google and check it out. Strong Bad's some pretty funny stuff. Let's see. In terms of characterization, I think Momiji is sort of a little bit of a backseat here. We're going to be seeing some very interesting stuff with Momiji here coming up. Ichiko. Well, all we really got is that she's extremely embarrassed that Keita saw her naked. Well, okay, that's that's a perfectly normal reaction to having somebody that maybe you have some feelings for, unexpectedly seeing you naked. I mean, that certainly would be a somewhat embarrassing situation for most people. I was a little bit surprised by how her reaction to that wasn't, getting angry or blushing. It was just she's just sort of mentally shuts down, and it's Keita who has to sort of like turn around and like I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Now, this episode is, of course, a very continuing testament to Keita being a very, very moral guy. He's repeatedly talking about, like, look, I'm certainly not going to let you guys peek when my sisters are over there. I don't want to set a little bad example for my little brothers. And even when all of that is taken away, he still has that, teenage boy's urge to want to check out attractive girls. But he still restrains himself from doing that. And again, it's a very strong testament to the moral values that he does have, and of course presents him as a very stark contrast to Bobby and Momo. But then I would really hope that most of us would stand as a stark contrast to Bobby and Momo. If not, well, enjoy your future as a registered sex offender. Now, Ranmaru, I think, is actually the one who gets the biggest character moments here. One, the fact that she's really into Keita is once again brought to the front, and I do like the fact that she's even explicitly states that she really digs the idea that Keita is naked on the other side of the wall, purely because it gets her lust going. You don't really see that too much from a lot of women in non hentai anime, especially not stuff that that basically isn't porn. Again, that's just really not something that you see. No, it's certainly not never happened. I'm not saying it's never happened before, but it's certainly taking the road less traveled. And of course, her reaction to Keita, seeing her naked as well, and the fact that it's her fault that this happens, of course, leads to that her reaction to being super embarrassed at the very end there. So again, it's, I think, some really nice character bits for her, but overall, yeah, this is really mostly a setup episode in terms of characterization. There's really not a lot for us to work with, and I'm going to call it there. As always, folks, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time, take care and have a good one.